This is the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
Okay, guys, let's just rip. And Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall. Chris, thanks for being with me tonight.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Now, he puts the broad in broadband. It's Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Well, hey there. It is the, 13th day of June already? Good grief. Welcome into the Chris Stigall Show podcast. I appreciate you choosing us, downloading us every day, subscribing, and leaving a 5-star review and a written review. I know it's work. I know most of the time it's totally inconvenient to go down to the bottom of the menu of all the shows at Apple Podcasts and leave this written review or 5 stars. But those of you who take the extra time to do it, I know who you are, and I think you're awesome. Thank you for your time. Coming up today, Byron Donalds, the congressman from Florida's, what district? I got to cheat here. I thought I knew. 19th, Florida's 19th congressional district. You know him well, part of the House Freedom Caucus. I think he's a pretty enthusiastic Donald Trump backer, but, you know, given that he is in Florida, got a lot to ask him about this Biden story as it relates to potential money laundering and bribery that has come up in both the House Oversight Committee as well as the Senate. That is the story today. We're going to get into that. You harumphers know well. We've been talking about that. Update on the I-95 bridge collapse. I kind of left some of you with the impression yesterday that there were holes in that story. I don't want anybody to think I went conspiracy on it, but we are going to talk about that in more detail. Pat Sajack is hanging it up. That's a weird reaction from some people on the left, believe it or not. That's also political somehow. Also going to talk about DeSantis and the attack that he sustained, not physically, but verbally, from the stage of the Tonys, and why, while everyone in the world is talking about Donald Trump and the indictment today, it, one, misses the real story, but two, people that think only Trump is the most damaged and only Trump is the guy that can't win. I would say we learned something from the Tonys on Sunday night about DeSantis that you should understand. This is not me. This is not an attack on DeSantis. This is just, let's be fair and let's be clear about what we're facing as Republicans in opposition to this corrupt husk. So that's just some of what's coming up in today's show. But the guy that brings this show to you each and every day is John Ruhlman. He is at usmedicalplan.com. And if you haven't seen the video of my conversation with John yet at chrisstigall.com, I hope you'll watch it. You'll get a sense of who he is. That's always important to me so that you know who you're dealing with, the guy behind the company. He works with his wife and brother, and they've built this really incredibly helpful institution, headquartered in Cincinnati. And John is committed to finding you the best possible, most affordable rates in the private sector if he can. He'll put you on Obamacare ultimately if he still thinks that's the best route to save you money, but he would love to plug you into any one of the 80-plus private insurers out there. And because he knows the marketplace, he can compare what you have currently to what's out there. He'll never get you less coverage. He's always going to get you more coverage. He wants to analyze your health insurance so that if you ever, God forbid, need to be hospitalized, you're fully covered. For younger people, people like my son's age who are just starting to get into college or maybe the workforce, they're young, they're healthy. He can get them in like unbelievably cheap premium payments every month for a health insurance plan that will pay them if they're ever hospitalized. Literally, cut them checks. So if you are thoughtful about maybe someday, again, heaven forbid, getting tragically sick or needing surgery or whatever, and that's going to take you out of work for some stretch of time, you want to be compensated. You want to be covered in addition to anything that's going on at work. Seniors, if you're on a fixed income and you buy a supplemental plan, calling John's a no-brainer. If you have a retiree in your life or you yourself are a retiree and you're trying to make your pennies go as far as they can, call John. Give him a couple of minutes. I know people that have saved hundreds up to $2,000. The best success story I've heard is a friend of mine that saved $2,000 a month on health insurance for him and his family of 4. Stunning. USMedicalPlan.com, 877-410-4321. 877-410-4321, USMedicalPlan.com. Call John Ruhlman or check out the video at chrisstigall.com today. Well, I'm thrilled to hear from my friend Jason Perrett at Eagle Wealth Planning that you are reaching out for some financial counsel in 2023. Jason is a financial advisor at Eagle Wealth Planning. And as a guy who I know is invested as a fiduciary in your financial goals and yours alone. He's not trying to move product. His entire MO is sitting down with you and exploring your financial future. He's dedicated to providing clients with complete wealth management and investment services, along with highly personalized professional assistance. He wants to reach this audience. He values you. He knows you're a smart, savvy person, and maybe you're retired and you're not particularly happy with your wealth management. Maybe you're young and just getting started and you're not entirely sure what to do and you want to get started with investing. So whether it's millions, whether it's a few thousand, whatever it is, let Jason Perrette go to work to keep you on a sound footing and a financial future that he's constantly evaluating, by the way. He's checking in with you. You're a team in this. It's not just sticking your money in a fund and forgetting about it. It's also not making wild knee-jerk reactions to the marketplace. Jason's in this for long-term financial independence for you. That's his job. Jason regularly revisits your goals and assesses your risk tolerance. So it's a real partnership. I want you to meet him. This guy is deadly serious about keeping you on track and getting you to your financial destination. Whether you are an entrepreneur who's been, very, very successful, maybe near retirement, maybe you are retired. And like I said, even young people who are just getting started and trying to figure it out. Reach out to Jason for your wealth planning needs at Eagle Wealth Planning. He is linked on my website. Go to chrisstigall.com and click on the Eagle Wealth Planning logo. It'll take you right to his site. You can call him today, 816-394-8117. Jason Perrette, 816-394-8117. He's Jason at eaglewealthplanning.com if you want to email him. Jason at eaglewealthplanning.com. I hope that you will. Please tell him that Chris said hi. I see him in church every Sunday, but you tell him I said hi anyway, all right? Securities and advisory services. And by the way, anywhere in the country, I don't care where you hear this. If you're listening to me and you need help with your finances, Jason can help you. Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisors, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, a broker-dealer and a registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. You people know a good deal when you see it. I feel like this every time we do this, the accountant, the official show accountant calls me and says, "You bonehead, we're hemorrhaging now because of what you've done." And I said, look, I call them the smartest audience in podcast and radio for a reason. They know a good deal. Sign-ups yesterday, again, just like we did for Mother's Day, we launched a Father's Day deal at the Harumph Society that you're taking advantage of because you're savvy. $2.50 a month. So, yeah, basically I'm paying Substack is what I'm doing at that rate, but that's okay. I don't care. All I want to do is grow the subscriptions, I told them, and if that means all we do is pay Substack, so be it. And I'm giving away stuff this week. So I congratulate Chip already. Chip was a brand new enrollee yesterday to the Harumph Society. So Chip, welcome aboard. Congratulations. You're winner number one, day one. I'm doing this every day this week for brand new subscribers, and I'm also going to pick a daily current Harumph Society member to win a fantastic prize from my pillow. Slippers, slides, or sandals is actually what we're going to give away. So 2 winners a day, basically. An established Harumpher and a brand new Harumpher this week. And for brand new Harumphers, it's a stupid price of $2.50 a month. $30 for the whole year. So I know I keep getting nasty grams from people. Stigall, this is not the idea. You can't. I said, well, listen, if it ends up being just me and I can't afford to pay anybody for help, so be it. Because someday that may be what it is. Just me, like Tucker, sitting in a cabin, controlling everything with a mouse myself. And that's fine. I don't mind if that's what it winds up being. So check it out. If you're not a Harumpher yet, this is the week to do it. We're only doing it through Friday. I hope that you will. That's right.
I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
Give the governor harumph.
Harumph? You watch your ass.
Now, let's get to, if you are a Harumpher, you read my post yesterday. And you know that getting distracted with Trump being indicted and Trump heading to Miami today is the stupidest thing you and I could be talking about. That is not the news. Getting distracted with more Trump indictment. By the way, there's going to be a third. How many times are we going to do this? The choppers and the chases overhead, and Trump's leaving Bedminster, and he's going to Florida. And then, okay, when they do it in Atlanta, Trump's leaving Mar-a-Lago. Here goes now he's flying into Atlanta, just like we did for Manhattan before that. And still to come, as Dershowitz told us yesterday, probably another one in D.C. Are we going to keep doing this? Listen, you people that don't want Trump to be the nominee, you're the ones that should want this the least. This constant round-the-clock coverage. I said yesterday on Twitter, this is not, and don't misunderstand this as a criticism of anyone. It's just an observation, and I think a truth. The media is doing with Trump what they did back in 2015 and 2016, all over again. This obsessive, constant, round-the-clock, Trump is going to do what? Now, for better or worse, whatever you think, whether you hate him, whether you like him, whether you want him to be the nominee or whether you don't, the Republicans aren't going to be able to get any traction because nobody's going to talk about them. DeSantis, Scott, Haley, whomever, whatever the guy's name from North Dakota who got in it last week, apparently. Now I'm getting emails from him. I don't know how I ended up on Doug Burnham's email list. I don't know. I keep getting these emails. You got the Burnham fever? I'm like, who the hell is this in my email box? I'm seriously, I'm on a Burnham email list, Fast Eddie. How did that happen?
I'm feeling the burn.
That's right.
Equal time, bro.
Bernie and Burnham in the morning. So how are these guys going to get any traction if every day it's high above the highway where, the chopper chases, like the OJ and the white Ford Bronco? How is this a story? Still to come, 2 more at least in the next year, probably. So they're in essence, they're picking our nominee. You know that. I mean, let me look at it another way. For you people that maybe you're pro DeSantis or some other candidate, they're choosing Trump. They're basically making certain that the only person anybody has to choose from, talk about, or think about, they're treating Trump basically as the presumptive Republican nominee. So this is not the story. You want to know the story? I'll tell you. I wrote about it again yesterday at the Rump Society. Here's the headline. Chuck Grassley from the Senate floor. Burisma executive who allegedly paid Biden has audio recordings of conversations with Joe and Hunter. Now, anybody not talking about this today isn't talking about the real news today. I just want you to know that. Just a little consumer tip from me to you as your host and one of your destination show choices every day. If your show isn't talking about this, they're not talking about the real story. They're not talking about the real scandal. We're not going to be distracted here with this Trump stuff. And even at its worst, even if every single thing they say Trump did is true, it pales in comparison to what was just alleged yesterday on the Senate floor by a very serious guy. Chuck Grassley has been around since magma cooled. I mean, this guy is, one of the deans of the Senate. He doesn't throw this stuff around loosey-goosey. Here's Chuck Grassley, Iowa senator from the Senate floor. Take a listen.
That the foreign national who allegedly bribed Joe and Hunter Biden allegedly has audio recordings of his conversation with them. 17 such recordings.
17!
According to the 1023, the foreign national possesses 15 audio recordings of phone calls between him and Hunter Biden. According to the 1023, the foreign national possesses 2 audio recordings of phone calls between him and then Vice President Joe Biden. These recordings were allegedly kept as a sort of insurance policy for the foreign national in case that he got into a tight spot.
Yeah, well.
The 1023 also indicates that then Vice President Joe Biden may have been involved in Burisma employing Hunter Biden. Based on the facts known to the Congress and the public, it's clear that the Justice Department, the FBI, haven't nearly had the same laser focus on the Biden family.
Yeah. Suffice it
Special
to say.
Counsel Jack Smith has used a recording against former President Trump,
which we haven't heard and wasn't legal to be
what
released.
Is U.S. Attorney Weiss doing with respect to these alleged Joe and Hunter Biden recordings that are apparently relevant to the high-stakes bribery scheme? Getting a full and complete 1023 is critical for the American people to know and understand the true nature of the document and to hold the Justice Department and the FBI accountable. It's also important for asserting constitutional congressional oversight powers against an out-of-control executive branch, obviously drunk with political infection.
And probably really drunk.
Remember, Congress has received 1023s in the past, and they've been made public. So asking for this 1023 to be turned over to the American people to read is not an unusual thing that goes on with 1023s.
Right. Okay. So, listen, I wish we didn't have a 900-year-old geriatric delivering this, but okay. It is what it is. Trying not to be an ageist since we have a 900-year-old geriatric we're pretending is president and up for re-election again. So, okay. They have theirs, we have ours. By the way, Chuck Grassley's not nearly as infirm as Joe Biden. Chuck Grassley's actually a smart guy. And the people of Iowa reelected him, knowing full well that he's the age he is. I think he's 90-something. I mean, I think he might be, well, next to Dianne Feinstein, I think he's like the oldest guy in the Senate. But he's considered a serious actor. And so for the Republican Party, they're like, listen, if we're sending Chuck Grassley out, he's got the stuff, he's got the goods, he's a serious guy. He's not bombastic, he's not, you don't hear people in the left, attacking Chuck Grassley like maybe you do Josh Hawley or Ted Cruz or something like that. So maybe that's why. I mean, he's the ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, so he's basically the lead pit bull for Republicans in the Senate. Not exactly my favorite messenger for something this explosive, and it is the news of the day. Hello? 17 record. Let me just go over this again because I understand old-time sleepy hour might have been difficult to listen to. Grassley revealing yesterday what was said to be a redacted reference in an FBI-generated 1023 form alleging a criminal bribery scheme between Biden and a foreign national involved in influence over U.S. policy decisions. Grassley said this redacted form has a reference to a Burisma executive that possesses 15 audio recordings of phone calls between himself and Hunter Biden. Grassley also states the executive possesses 2 recordings of phone calls between himself and Joe Biden. Grassley from the Senate floor slamming the FBI for not complying with the House Oversight Committee subpoena, saying Congress still lacks a full and complete picture with respect to what that document really says. Now, Grassley makes a fine point here in his own way in that speech. He says, we're supposedly running Trump out on a rail. This Jack Smith indictment, the 300 counts they've thrown at him or whatever. I know it's 37, but whatever. It may as well be 300. The news media is singularly obsessed over a recording of Trump that they claim they know of. Now, have you heard it? Have you heard it? You've sure read a lot about it. If you've been following the Trump indictment story, you have heard more about this than probably any other facet of the Trump indictment story. And it goes like this. Trump supposedly was, I think, in Bedminster in his course in New Jersey, and supposedly he was pulling documents out and waving them around in front of people. He was holding court with some staffer and some journalist and going, hey, you know what I got? Look what I got. I have documents I'm not supposed to have. And you know what they detail? War plans. Huh? Hey, look at me. They're supposed to be classified, but they weren't, and I didn't declassify them. So, whoopsie. Anyway, you want to look at the war plans I got? Huh? Trump was supposedly showing off with documents in his possession. And they claim they have audio of this. You've heard this, right? We have audio of it. Couple things about this. Number one, you haven't heard it, and you and I have absolutely no idea the context. We're just being told by media outlet after media outlet that this audio exists. You and I haven't heard it. We're just being told that it exists, and so it is. And so it's just so. So media has just made it so, right? People are not challenging or even questioning the existence of an audio tape of Trump supposedly bragging about all the very secret, top secret stuff that he has in his possession that he's on tape bragging about. Is anyone questioning it? Do you hear anybody asking, produce the tape, please? Let's hear it, please. No, you don't. And you know why? Why don't you? Because it's not legally permissible for any of us to know it even exists as a piece of evidence. It isn't for public consumption. This is a man who's about to be brought up on trial. You understand? And so what Jack Smith and his prosecutorial team out of DOJ have done, as they always do, they have leaked what is supposed to be secret trial information that is not for public consumption. They are poisoning the well. They are making sure that the general public, anybody who potentially sits on a jury in Miami, is already aware that Trump's out there bragging he's got classified stuff. We have tape of it. We're not supposed to know. Do you understand we're not supposed to know that? That's not the way this is supposed to work in the United States. But in short order, inside of one calendar year, they have amassed so much information and so much tape that they've been able to cobble together 30-plus charges of an indictment against Trump. And after 5 years with the Hunter Biden laptop, and after over five, because we're talking about when Joe Biden was vice president, these tapes that Charles Grassley says exist, of some 17 audio recordings in total between Hunter Biden and Joe Biden with Ukrainian people and talking about deals and money changing hands, these have existed since Joe Biden was vice president. What's the math on that exactly? 2008, 7-8, 6-7-8? So what's the math on that? Are we coming up on 20 years? Really? If you get into 2026, 7-8? 15? 10?
Yeah.
Let's call it a decade.
Yeah.
Just for round math, a decade or more. They have had audio evidence that foreign governments are bribing the Bidens in some kind of pay-for-play or quid pro quo or whatever you want to call it. They've had the Hunter Biden laptop for half a decade. Half a decade. Nothing. But inside of 1 year, from Mar-a-Lago raid to today, they have amassed enough information on Donald Trump to lodge 37 federal counts against him and audio tape. We have a tape that you and I aren't even supposed to know about. And yet, the FBI is apparently sitting on all this. They have a confidential human informant inside our FBI who's come forward to say, we have lots of tapes on the Bidens, too. And so the House Oversight Committee and Grassley are like, excuse me, you people are so tape obsessed. We'd like to hear those tapes. We're told there are tapes of those that exist. Some are claiming they've heard the tapes. So I ask you, what is the bigger scandal in your mind? And this is a sincere question. And I'm calling everything equal and taking everything at face value. So what I asked yesterday at the Harump Society, and I'll ask you, sincere. And I want you to be honest with me, deadly honest. I'm not looking for an answer. What do you find more concerning? That Donald Trump left the White House with documents in his possession that he shouldn't have had, and let's say even ultimately came to understand they weren't declassified properly. And let's say on tape, he's legitimately caught having shown someone a classified document that he should have declassified and didn't, and says, whoops, too late, that's on me. Let's just worst case it, okay? Let's say he did it. And let's lock him away for it. Let's just play it out. Do you find that more or less egregious than the Biden family, the current guy we're pretending to be president of the United States, and his family funneling millions of dollars through several bank accounts, not even claiming taxes on it, not claiming it as income, but rather funneling it through shell accounts through multiple family members? taking money from foreign governments and funneling it through family bank accounts, maybe like some 9, 10 family members to hide it. And I'm not looking for an answer. What do you find more egregious if we just took both of those things I just presented to you, and that's literally what they are. There's no nuance to any of it. Just taking it all at face value, what do you find as an American more objectionable? And if you say Trump, okay, I'll hear it. Go ahead, Fast Eddie. Is it Trump?
It's not Trump. Of course not. The Vice President of the United States receives cash, large sums of money to enrich his family while he's the Vice President. 1. 2, that looks very, very bad at a time where we're currently shoveling tons of cash to the country in question. I mean, there's no... If Donald Trump was being careless with classified docs, that's one thing. If he was being paid by another foreign power, that's bad.
Yeah, like, again, if we're just assuming all of this is all truthful and we know no specifics of any of it, we just take it all at face value, I agree with you. My assessment is, I wasn't looking for that answer, but you've confirmed my bias here, and I think it's pretty clear to any objective American. A sitting president, then vice president, and family taking money from foreign entities for influence is a demonstrably more disturbing, corrupt, highly abusive entity inside our government than a president in possession of his own documents that maybe today, as a former president, he shouldn't have. If you even accept that, which many of you don't and probably shouldn't, because everything I've been told under the Presidential Records Act, it's an entirely different matter. The man's former president of the United States. He's privy to the stuff. It's not like he, it's, well, you get it. It's not even close. These stories, in my mind, are not even close. When you rank the scandals in modern political history, this one is the biggest of them all. This makes Bill Clinton look like a day at the beach. This makes Fast and Furious under Obama look like a day at the beach. The gun running episode at the border. This is the most contemptible, corrupt, disgusting abuse of power we've ever seen. But today, the media, including many of my colleagues, are going to be talking about Trump's indictment in Miami as if that's the story. And isn't that exactly what everybody would like you to be talking about? Isn't that exactly what mainstream media... I mean, Lindsey Graham. I don't have much time for Lindsey Graham, but I didn't get to this. Yesterday, Lindsey Graham talking to George Stephanopoulos, the pocket-sized little gnome on Good Morning America, or I guess it was ABC this week. He was doing the Sunday show. Does George do every show but The View on ABC now that's considered news?
Seems like it.
Yeah. So Lindsey Graham, Bruce from Family Guy, who, again, I don't have much time for generally, but every now and again he hits a home run. He's like that guy that strikes out all season long and every now and again hits a grand slam. And you're like, well, I'm glad I paid for a ticket this Sunday afternoon. Got to see a grand slam. Yeah, it's the guy that never gets he can't get a run most games, but okay, when he hits one, he hits a big one. Listen to this yesterday. Or from Sunday.
Donald Trump has said repeatedly that he did nothing wrong. Do you believe that?
Well, here's what I believe. We live in an America where if you're the Democratic candidate for president, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, you can set up a private server in your basement to conduct government business. And when an investigation is had about your activity, no, let me finish.
You didn't answer the question.
That was ridiculous. Well, yeah, I'm trying to answer the question from a Republican point of view. That may not be acceptable on this show. Yes, I don't like what President Trump did in certain aspects. I don't like that Joe Biden had classified information on the garage. I don't like that Mike Pence carelessly took classified information. I don't like any of that. But what I don't like is a system in America where the Secretary of State, who's a Democratic candidate for president, has people take a hammer to social media devices and break them apart, apply bleach bit to a hard drive to erase emails, allow classified information to get on a felon's computer, Anthony Weiner. You haven't even mentioned that. Most Republicans believe we live in a country where Hillary Clinton did very similar things and nothing happened to her. President Trump have his day in court. But espionage charges are absolutely ridiculous. Whether you like Trump or not, he did not commit espionage. He did not disseminate, leak, or provide information to a foreign power or to a news organization to damage this country. He is not a spy. He's overcharged. Did he do things wrong? Yes, he may have. He will be tried about that. But Hillary Clinton wasn't. Your old boss committed perjury in a civil lawsuit, lost his law license, obstructed justice a dozen ways, and he didn't get prosecuted. I know.
And he was impeached.
Well,
he was impeached. Yeah, he was impeached.
But he wasn't prosecuted.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. He was impeached. This was good. Graham was good on this. Let's continue. More. Graham.
You've made your point, but you also said something that I believe is not true based on what's in the indictment. You said that he did not disseminate any of this information. In fact, there's an audio tape in the indictment where he's talking about the secret
There's
information.
an audio tape. Hang on. Can you pause this for a second? This is what I mean. This is what they do. Do you know this? We're not supposed to know that. Do people understand this? Do you know that we're not supposed to know that? George Stephanopoulos is not supposed to know that. We're not supposed to be talking about there's an audio tape. That's not legal. Jack Smith's DOJ team indicting Trump is not supposed to disseminate information that the jury is ultimately going to hear to try to decide a case. They've leaked this. The DOJ has leaked this story. We don't know what this tape is. Well, there's supposedly a tape. There's a tape. There's a tape. And the media does this every time. They've been doing it since last week. There's a tape. There's a tape. They read the indictment and they go, oh, by the way, did you hear there's a tape? Is that in the indictment? Well, no, but I heard there's a tape. Jack Smith's people say there's a tape. Well, there's a tape that says, there's a tape that says. I can do that all day. Hey, Fast Eddie, I have a tape of you swinging naked from a chandelier last weekend. I have a tape. Did you know Fast Eddie did a bunch of cocaine and was swinging naked from a chandelier? I've heard there's a tape. I can say that. I can say whatever I want. Hey, I heard there's a tape. I got a tape. Friend of mine says he's got a tape. What does that mean? That's not evidence of anything. That's just people perpetuating a rumor. All right, anyway, just wanted to make that point. Graham knocks it out of the park, by the way.
Knows it's secret, knows it's not declassified.
Okay, let's talk about that. I don't know what happened. I haven't heard the audio, but look at who's been charged under Espionage Act. Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning. People who turn over classified information to news organizations to hurt the country or provide it to a foreign power. That did not happen here. Donald Trump, you may hate his guts, but he is not a spy.
Right.
He did not commit espionage. What he did is very similar, in my view, to what Hillary Clinton did.
Bingo.
People in the Clinton case took a hammer to a BlackBerry and destroyed it. They wiped clean with bleach bit emails. They said they were all personal, but some of them actually were classified, and it wound up on Anthony Weiner's computer, and not a damn thing happened to her.
That's right.
Senator, first of all, she was fully investigated. They found the investigation found no intentional holding back. But fine. Donald Trump was president for 4 years. He had his Justice Department in place for 4 years.
Give me a break.
But setting that aside, there is an audio tape of Donald Trump saying he knows this is secret information.
How does George Stephanopoulos know this? Has he heard it?
People. How is that okay?
I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay to take a hammer to a BlackBerry. I think none of this is okay. When Chris Coons, my good friend will be on in a minute, when we view classified information, we have to sign in, go into a room, and turn it back over. You got vice presidents, secretary of states, and presidents handling this stuff. You had Bill Clinton with tapes in his sock drawer. I would like to review the system, but here's the point I'm trying to make. What's happening in Manhattan to Donald Trump has never happened to anybody in the District of New York. I think the espionage charges are completely wrong, and I think they paint an impression that doesn't exist. This is not espionage. And I do believe, George, that most people on my side of the aisle believe when it comes to Donald Trump, there are no rules, and you can do the exact same thing or something very similar as a Democrat, and nothing happens to you. Here's the bottom line.
Hold on a second, Senator.
The leading candidate for president of the United States on the Republican side is being prosecuted by his opponent.
Had Donald Trump turned over the documents as Mike Pence did, and you heard our legal panel address that as well, we wouldn't be sitting here today. There would be no case.
Yeah, okay. Donald Trump is not Mike Pence, first of all. Donald Trump's the former president of the United States. He's not Mike Pence. Mike Pence, actually, if you want to know the truth about it, and I like Mike Pence on balance, Mike Pence should be in bigger trouble than Donald Trump. If you want to know the truth. Because much like Joe Biden shouldn't have been taking money from a foreign government, Mike Pence shouldn't have document 1 considered classified in his possession, and yet he did, and he went, well, oops, here you go. And they go, thanks, Mike, swell of you. This is ridiculous. It's absurd. One more, and then I'll wrap up, because I didn't get to this yesterday, I apologize, but Graham was pretty fantastic, and I just wanted to make sure everybody heard this. And he makes the point that I was just making. It's taken how many years to move on Hunter Biden? We still have no action on Hunter Biden, but they managed to cobble this impressive 37-count case against a president inside a calendar year?
I don't know if that's it. He believes he has the power to do that. He will argue the Presidential Records Act. I don't know if he's right or not. There'll be a trial about this, but I cannot stress to you enough that we live in a world today where most Republicans believe that Hunter Biden's laptop was real and people knew it was real, but they told the public something else to help Joe Biden.
Including you, George.
We live in a world where it takes 4 years to investigate Hunter Biden, and you can go after Donald Trump in about 18 months. I know you don't get what I'm saying, but people on my side believe it, and I think Donald Trump is stronger today politically than he was before. I think the espionage charges are ridiculous. I think what happened to Hillary Clinton, where she got away with it, is very similar to what happened to the President Trump, and we'll have an election and we'll have a trial. But I promise you this, most Americans believe, most Republicans believe, that the law is used as a weapon against Donald Trump.
When he's right, he's right. Bruce from Family Guy there. Normally insufferable, but every now and again, you got to hand it to him. I don't know. You never know which Lindsey Graham you're going to get. That was good Lindsey Graham, so we'll take it. Now, by the way, what was Fathead talking about all night long last night on CNN on his big town hall? Was he talking about Joe Biden? I wonder if Joe Biden came up at all, sincerely. No, I didn't watch it. We have some audio that maybe, if there's time in this show, I'll get to. Doubtful, so don't hold your breath. Fathead, Mr. Closed the Beach for everybody but his family, went over there to CNN and had a town hall, as if anybody, the Christie fever. If you weren't bitten from it before, like Doug Burnham has a better chance, a guy whose name I don't even know until last week. But Fathead's over there on CNN, and all I see are transcripts today of him attacking Trump. He doesn't seem particularly interested that the sitting president took millions of dollars in bribes. So we know what Chris Christie's about. And there are a handful of these fraud Republicans that are now trying to make Donald Trump the criminal here. So we know what a good chunk of this Republican field exists to do, to pile on and help Democrats. That's fine. Fine. Just so long as everybody understands who these people are and everybody shows their hand. So don't be distracted, folks. Do not be distracted with other shows' obsession with Donald Trump's in Miami today. Don't do it. Keep your eyes sharply focused where they belong. The highly corrupt, money-laundering, dirtbag Biden family. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years. But now he has 2 brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell him about him, Bob.
Yeah, Chris, I can't begin to express how proud I am, obviously, of having my daughter there. Also, Dr. Geddes is just a wonderful addition to our practice. He is a classmate of my daughter Alexa's at Temple Dental School, and I have known Jared for about 7 years now. Getting to know Jared over the years, it was my wife Debbie and my daughter Emily who kept telling me, you have to hire Jared. You have to hire Jared. He's going to be a superstar. Jared went off to USC, did a 1-year residency after his year at Temple, and he came back and he worked for about a year in practice in New Jersey. And after, again, my wife and daughter beating my brains in, I got the message and I hired Jared, and he's been a great addition to Williamsburg Dental.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. Didn't see this because I don't watch the Tonys. Who does? I mean, I don't even think when the Tonys weren't particularly considered political, when entertainment was still considered something that mass audiences could and were interested in consuming, I don't think people were watching the Tonys then. No disrespect to people of the stage, but that's a very insulated group of people. So, I mean, you're talking about Honestly, what I'm about to play for you, you probably haven't even heard until now. I mean, it's so poorly rated, so poorly watched, it didn't even make news after it happened Sunday. It took a full 24-hour news cycle before anybody even heard that somebody you've never heard of on a show nobody watches said something about DeSantis. Now, the only reason I'm even playing this is to underscore a point that I've been making about this culture thing. And it's an intriguing, I don't know where it goes, and I don't know what to make of it, and it's anecdotal, but it's yet another piece of evidence to underscore my point here. When you're talking about the Republican field, and ostensibly we're talking about Trump v. DeSantis, there seems to be a growing impression that DeSantis is, and I mean, this is to the left now. These are people that I told you yesterday the anecdote about my friend who said all of her liberal girlfriends on social media seem to think that DeSantis is someone they find more concerning than Trump. And it's for all the social reasons that DeSantis has gone to war with Disney. DeSantis has gone to war on public schools and, pornography in libraries and CRT, critical race theory, being taught in school. He's gone after all that and successfully squelched it. And as such, he's trying to carve it. By the way, did you see Trump yesterday has now made an official, I think, men competing in women's sports is a bad thing statement. I saw that come across the, I guess he did a couple of interviews yesterday. I don't exactly know where, but that was one of the things he said, which I found notable because he's never really been asked that directly, and he doesn't really make a point to talk about that stuff. Obviously, DeSantis does, to such a degree that Riley Gaines, the NCAA swimmer that we've had on several times, who became famous for being beaten by a man now pretending to be a woman called Leah Thomas, Riley came out, I think I told you this last week, and formally endorsed DeSantis because she feels he is the most committed to the issue. And so if this is something that is particularly concerning to you, DeSantis certainly has the lead by a lot. I mean, it's not even close. DeSantis is the mantle carrier on these cultural rot issues over Trump. And so I've been wondering aloud to myself, like, when you're talking about these two men and who's going to be the Republican nominee, who animates the left more? And people are convinced it's Trump. I'm told all the time by friends who are ready to move on from Trump or were always never Trump, the left hates Trump. They hate him. And I always say, but DeSantis? No, not like Trump. Are you sure? Are you sure? Now, again, nobody's watching the Tony Awards, but the Tony Awards is full of nothing but committed, hardcore, rabid leftists. And here's what one of them said while standing on stage at the Tonys on Sunday.
Hi, I'm Danae Benton, actor. Thank you.
Never heard of her in my life.
Proud CMU alum. Earlier tonight, CMU and the Tony Awards presented the 2023 Excellence in Theater Education Award. And while I am certain that the current governor of my home state of Florida will be changing.
Okay. And this carries on. I mean, they howl and go on and on and on and on. Did you hear what she said? She called DeSantis the grand wizard of my home state of Florida. Now, I know about Trump derangement syndrome. We've been steeped in it for years. And yeah, people have called Trump a racist, but they really believe this about DeSantis. They believe DeSantis is a Klansman, a grand wizard. Never mind, of course, the Democrat Party quite literally had one in their Senate ranks. He was a grand Kleagle, I believe, by textbook definition. And the United States' first black president eulogized him, Robert Byrd of West Virginia. That wasn't that long ago. But anyway, the current grand wizard of my home state. I'm sorry, I mean governor. Now, you heard the reaction in the audience. And this is just a rhetorical question. We can't know this. It's not been polled. let's just say Trump's indicted and locked away in an orange jumpsuit and left to rot in prison, and DeSantis is our nominee. We're going to get more of that or less of that for DeSantis, do you think? He's a grand wizard, Fast Eddie.
110% more every day, all the time.
Yeah. So from a cultural point of view, do you think the left hates DeSantis more than Trump? And I'm talking purely from a culture. Now, look, the left may think that Trump's a corrupt, they've been told for 6 years that Donald Trump's colluding with foreign governments and basically doing everything they're literally doing. But that's what they've been told. He cheated to win an election. He stole documents. He's dangerous. Even though he made us more safe and more prosperous demonstrably during his tenure in office. But the American left is convinced that Donald Trump is some kind of Mussolini in waiting. Okay, whatever. But you know what they really don't say, or what hasn't stuck? They've called him a misogynist, right? He's a grabber, the vagina hats, that whole thing. He's never been a culture guy, though, has he? If you're to be fair. He's never been a guy that's gone after the gays or gone after the blacks. I think everybody understands they can't really credibly hit him there. Wouldn't you agree? It's never stuck. Have you noticed that?
I agree, Chris, and sorry for the reminder, but remember he did bring up the acronym during his speech at the RNC convention. The LGBTQ, I think there was a plus in there at that time, but he said it from the stage.
Trump.
He did.
I don't think I do remember that. You mean nodded to them?
Yeah. It was something along the lines of like, and nobody will do more, for the LGBTQ people. Like he actually said it.
I don't remember that, but I'll trust your word on it. I mean, look, he comes from entertainment and fashion. His wife is a fashion model. I mean, he ran a pageant. I mean, it's like it's full of nothing but gays and minorities. Donald Trump had a #1 television show in it. I mean, he did nothing but hang out with liberals and leftists and people of color and gay people. So it never stuck that Trump was the Klansman or the bigot. They just make him out to be some sort of menacing, shadowy figure who does business with foreign governments or whatever, which ironically is the ice cream eating avuncular moron we're pretending is president at present. But everybody thinks, oh, that's old Uncle Joe from Delaware. He rides the trains. He's not menacing. He's actually pocketing money, millions of dollars from foreign governments. So I bring that up only to tell you people that say, Trump can't win, the well's too poisoned, people hate him, people have formed their opinion. They're calling Governor DeSantis the grand wizard from the stage of the Tonys. Please don't tell me Trump can't win, but DeSantis can. I'm sorry, if the grand wizard thing sticks, and it will spread, and it will continue to spread, and you throw a heaping helping of pro-abortion women on top of that, you got a stew just as toxic as anything you could throw at Donald Trump. You just do. I'm sorry. So, look, again, and I say, I don't care which of these men gets the nomination. I'll full-throatedly and excitedly support either, or whoever the Republican will be. I will. But don't tell me Trump's the only toxic one. Don't tell me Trump's the only one they hate. Don't tell me Trump's the only one that can't win. By the way, Byron Donalds is coming up today. And Byron Donalds has, it's interesting, some of the GOP, members of the GOP, some of the most conservative members of the House GOP have partnered with the party officially. That is the GOP, the party. That is the Ronna McDaniel's party that we all loathe. Some conservative House members are being trotted out by Ronna Romney McDaniel to tout this new thing that we told you about last week that's called, what is it called? It's called Bank Your Vote. That's what it's called, Bank Your Vote. They're pushing now. Byron Donalds, one of the lead dogs on this because Florida does this and does it well, trying to encourage you to vote early, trying to change Republicans' minds about voting early, getting turnout to happen. Remember, Dick Morris said on this show, Republicans have our couch potatoes too. It seems, knock wood, like Ronna McDaniel and the GOP, have started to entertain this. They're hearing it. So we'll see. You know the jingle, right? For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com. It's true. It really is the best night's sleep in the whole wide world. I've been sleeping on MyPillow 2.0 for the last few weeks, and it is so comfortable. Can I be honest? I didn't really buy the whole Mike Lindell patented adjustable fill thing. I didn't know what that meant, adjustable fill. I was like, yeah, sure. The pillow's going to go flat. It doesn't go flat. You know how you buy a pillow at the store and you're like, oh, that's nice, and you sleep on it for a couple of days? I got a big, fat, heavy head. And all it takes is a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of nights where I get a little warm, and all of a sudden that pillow just... And a couple of weeks, my neck is cricked, and it's miserable. I've never had luck with pillows. Well, I tell you, this fill that MyPillow talks about and Mike talks about, it is adjustable, and it constantly stays. You adjust it at night, and your head is like even. It's not like, cranked down. It's like I haven't laid on a pillow night after night for weeks that keeps my head even with my shoulders. But this pillow does. And now, because it's MyPillow 2.0, you say, what makes it more special? Well, they've got a new fabric that dissipates heat and humidity on top of that. So it stays cool all night long. There is no flipping to the cool side of the pillow. The pillow stays cool. So it's that firmness and adjustability that you like, and it's also now cool to the touch. The fabric is soft. It's great. Couple that with the Giza Dream Sheets, the MyPillow body pillow. I feel like I'm sleeping on a cloud every night. I really have slept like a baby lately. Christine loves her MyPillow slippers. I sent my entire Chris Stigall Show team MyPillow travel pillows. Got a dog bed for Eddie and his dog. Dean, my dog, sleeps on a MyPillow dog bed. One of my associate producers is loving his Giza Dream Sheets and the slippers. Look, if you want really high-quality stuff, is it the cheapest? No. I'll just be honest with you. I know some people say, oh, it's expensive. Well, look, it's made in America. It has a 60-day money-back guarantee. It has a 10-year warranty on every single product Mike sells. So it's well made, and he stands behind it. So look, that comes, with a bit of a cost associated with it. That's true. You want something cheap and Chinese? Fine. Now, you're not going to find that at MyPillow. But if you want a really great discount on that, go to MyPillow.com and use my name, Chris Podcast. If you type in Chris Podcast, it lets them know you listen, and I appreciate it. So the promo code is Chris Podcast. That gets you the discount on the stuff. You get a second MyPillow 2.0 if you order one. Chris Podcast is the code at MyPillow.com, or call 800-932-5056. When I ask questions, I don't necessarily want to assign nefariousness to it. I just ask questions. And so the answers may be perfectly explainable and normal. It doesn't mean that there's a plot. I'm not a conspiracy guy. What's so sad is these days when you just say, but what about ... I have a question about ... Have you noticed that when you just ask, hey, there's information missing from this story that I would like. How are you treated? What are you, some kind of crazy? What are you, a conspiracy theorist? It happened. Yeah, I know it happened. I'm just asking about the particulars surrounding how. Well, it's right there. You see it. You see the fire burning. You see the smoke. And then I say, I know, but I'm curious to know how the wreck happened. Who was in the wreck? I'd like to see the flames of the 10 million acres on fire in Canada. I just have questions about the events surrounding it. You keep telling me the here we are now thing. It's called describing the water. Rather than going in depth and finding out what's underneath it, you're sitting on the pool deck describing the water being blue and calm. And I'm like, I'd like to know more about how we got on the water, for instance, or what's underneath the water, or who filled the pool? These are things that I like to ask because I'm a curious person, and I suspect most members of this audience are. But the news today is so lazy. It used to be who, what, where, when, why. Now it's just what. That's all they do now. They don't tell you anything but the what. Here it is. Look at this. Smoke. Here it is. Look at this. A fire. Okay, could we talk about the things surrounding the event so we have context? Nah, we don't have the resources or the time for that anymore. It's just this thing you need to know about. So whether it's politics or whether it's fires or whether it's wrecks or highways collapsing, news media is so disinterested in telling you anything other than the what. So I just simply said, I don't feel like we know enough. It turns out we know a little more now about this than we did yesterday. And it's terribly sad that, human remains were found in the wreckage after a tanker truck fire led to a partial collapse of I-95 in Philadelphia over the weekend, reports 6 ABC out of Philadelphia. The driver's remains were removed from the cab of the tractor trailer Monday morning. While the remains haven't been officially identified, family members of the driver, a guy called Nathaniel Moody, believe their loved one is the person who was killed. I'm kind of baffled. I'm trying not to cry because I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened, said his cousin Isaac. The Pennsylvania Task Force headquarters, I guess they were reviewing wreckage on Sunday as it was hauled away. Sources say the tanker truck was carrying 8,500 gallons of fuel. In the first official accounting of the wreck, the Pennsylvania Transportation Secretary said the driver was northbound trying to navigate the curve, lost control of the vehicle, landed on its side, and ruptured the tank. Once ignited, the fuel burned at a high enough heat to structurally compromise the concrete and steel beams of the overpass. Just before noon Monday, a proclamation of disaster emergency following the collapse. So, terribly sad. There's a family that got that news. But again, that information, sorry to be persnickety on this point, would it have been helpful to start the week, since this occurred Sunday? Wouldn't this have been helpful to start the week with this information? They knew what happened. They knew a tanker truck wrecked and caught fire. You telling me you couldn't give us more than the bridge collapsed and the bridge is out and that's it, and we have no more information for you than that? You would have solved a lot of problems. You would have extinguished a lot of curiosity if you would have said an unidentified driver of a fuel truck had an accident coming off the ramp, crashed. We exhumed the body from the wreckage. We're trying to identify the body, and we're certainly going to notify the next of kin before we give you an identity. But what we know right now is a truck took an off-ramp at a high rate of speed and crashed. It caught fire at the turn, caused the bridge to collapse. Until we notify the family and we know a little bit more about the driver, that's all we can say at this time. Would I have had a thing to say about this other than, wow, what a mess on I-95 for the foreseeable future yesterday? Would I have had anything else to ask or say, Fast Eddie, if they just simply said that? That seems easy enough to say.
Absolutely.
But they didn't.
No.
They didn't talk about the truck, the driver, what happened, how it happened at all. They just said, well, look at all these flames, and now a major artery of the interstate highway system is shut down for months. Anyway, what else is on? No, wait. There's some context here. Can we understand what happened, how it happened? That's all. Perfectly understandable what happened. Tragic, sad, sorry, very sorry that this man lost his life and this family's grieving, but it helps us understand the event. All I did all weekend and all day yesterday was wonder who was driving this? Where'd he go? Where was the driver? They made it sound like no one was involved. That's what drove me crazy. No one died. In fact, they kept saying no fatalities, no fatalities. Didn't they actually report that? No fatalities. I think they were actually writing that on Sunday and Monday. I thought I read. Maybe I'm making that up. Or perhaps they were just meaning traffic that was flowing over the bridge at the time, and that, highway officials were able to, thankfully, stop traffic from traveling over that bridge before it collapsed. Anyway, Pennsylvania lawmakers already trying to extend an emergency declaration for the I-95 collapse. The governor issued declarations expire, in 21 days. Both sides of the corridor are going to need significant repairs. Bob Kelly reported yesterday that now the north and southbound lanes will be destroyed. They cannot salvage the southbound lanes. So that's particularly interesting in that I suppose both of these stretches are going to now be for the foreseeable future disabled. And by the way, people that drive, I guess, north and south up and down the East Coast were telling me that it is not that uncommon that people would bypass Philadelphia anyway, going north and south on I-95. I don't drive it, so I don't know, but I had lots of people who do drive it regularly from points north and points south, and they say, Stigall, going into New Jersey saves people tons of time anyway. So this is something I would have avoided anyway on a regular basis. So anyway, that's just if for any reason you're listening and you're making a trip, I-95 from the north or from the south toward Philadelphia, just know you're best served to just go around Philadelphia by going into New Jersey and then popping back out north or south of the city for the foreseeable future. Which seems like it would be inconvenient, but I'm told that even when things were normal, it was sometimes an hour faster to actually go east into New Jersey, then south or north, and then back into Pennsylvania and continue your trip. So that's I-95 traffic for you. Just an update, as that is a major international thoroughfare. How about Kevin McCarthy? Yesterday, taking on a CNN reporter. This is good McCarthy. Just like we had good Lindsey Graham earlier, this is good Kevin McCarthy. Take a listen.
The idea of equal justice is not playing out here. And so that's a real concern to all Americans. So as a policymaker, elected officials, we want to make sure it's equal justice for all. We want to look at it as weaponization. Now, you're with CNN, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this even further, because when somebody weaponizes government and they actually get removed from government, let's take Andrew McCabe, okay, former deputy.
But this is a different
let me
case.
let me answer the question.
This is a different set of circumstances, right? I mean, the former president is accused of misleading law enforcement, of a conspiracy of obstructing justice. That's a different set of facts. Are you prepared to defend him as the former president, and what other actions will the House take in the House Judiciary Committee in terms of funding?
Are you prepared to defend your network, CNN? I'm answering your question. You could ask me any question you want, but I'm entitled to answer the question, okay? You can't put words in my mouth. Even though your network can hire Andrew McCabe, who was fired from the FBI for leaking classified documents. Did you remove him from your network? No, you continue to put him on to give judgment against President Trump.
Speaker.
You also hire Clapper. Clapper has come out publicly.
Mr. Speaker,
and
what steps is the House going to take in terms of, is there any effort to defund the FBI, any effort to defund the Department of Justice after what you've seen over the last several days?
So your network hires Clapper, who literally lied to the American public, one of 51 other individuals that had briefings and used it politically to tell the American public that a laptop was Russia collusion, even though it had all this information about the Biden administration. Are you prepared to get rid of those people from your network? Because my concern as a policymaker is that when you weaponize government and now you're weaponizing networks, that is wrong. So we will take all of our power to make sure that the legal system in America gets the blinders back on and people are treated fairly.
I got to tell you,
a real problem that your network actually pays people who did classified information and then lied to the American public to try to influence a presidential election, and then you put them on your network to give an opinion about a president, and I'm answering your
But you're not answering what
very clearly, because what your network has done has
He-
weaponized at the same time. I think equal justice is important for all. Yeah.
I got to tell you something. Look, they don't always get it right, and I have my frustrations, Lord knows, with the Republican Party. But as a communications effort and exercise, I am really getting impressed. From Lindsey Graham to Kevin McCarthy, they're now going into the lion's den with these people, and they're confronting them face to face and saying, "You're asking me? Let me tell you a little something about you." I don't want to talk about us. George Stephanopoulos. Quit talking about us. I'm asking you a question. No. I want to talk about you and your house for a minute. No. You don't get to do that. And they just keep doing it. Lindsey Graham, Kevin McCarthy, Vivek Ramaswamy did this with Dana Bash yesterday. Number 80 from yesterday, Fast Eddie. This was a great exchange.
With due respect, I think it is shameful that I, as a competitor to President Trump in this race, have to ask questions that the media isn't asking. The job of the political media, if it has one job, is to hold the U.S. government accountable.
Yes, we know that.
And instead, we're doing the bidding. You're seeing the media doing the bidding of the U.S. government.
No.
Ask the question. Get to the bottom of what Biden told Garland and what Garland told Jack Smith. If the same shoe fit the other foot, you would not take their word at face value. Do not take their word now. Get to the bottom of it. Let's actually restore journalism in this country. That's what's actually missing, is getting to the truth.
Okay. Thank you for that. We are absolutely asking these questions.
Good.
Right on, right on. Dana bashed whoever that little twerp was from CNN with Kevin McCarthy. George Stephanopoulos facing Bruce from Family Guy. Lindsey Graham. Tell you what, I'm impressed. This is the era of Trump communications. This is what Trump has done. He has taught many Republicans, not all, but many, how to do this. If you're going to go in the arena with these people, hold up a mirror and force them to stare at themselves. It's very uncomfortable for them. They don't like that, and they're not used to Republicans doing that. They're used to charging, and the Republicans are always on defense. Humming, stammering, trying to explain away. We're certainly going to wait until all of the charges. We hope there's a fair trial. Certainly, if what has been reported is true, we take these things very seriously. Used to be the way Republicans did it. You notice the pivot. I like it. I'll take the wins where I can get them. I'm not ready to throw a parade for the GOP. Don't misunderstand me, but I'll take the communications wins where I can get them. Speaking of communications, Fox News has officially launched a cease and desist against Tucker Carlson. From the "you still don't get it, do you, you morons" file. Fox News has decided to sell. Okay, Murdoch boys, you may have all the tea in China, my friends, but you're about to lose the biggest publicity war you've ever launched. And I don't know what you think you're going to accomplish. You stooges at Fox News have absolutely no idea what you're doing. You clearly don't. Rather than just drop this, leave it alone, and let Tucker do what or stop paying him. If you just want to say, listen, you're in breach of contract and we're not going to pay you anymore because you're clearly doing another show on another venue and we don't want to pay you, we're paying out your... Here's the thing. We learned from Chadwick Moore, his biographer, right? We learned that he's still being paid by Fox to do no show. They're honoring his contract and making his weekly, biweekly, monthly deposit in his bank account, right? So, as such, Fox says, hey, you're still our guy. You're just on the bench, but you're not doing shows anywhere else. You're still our guy. Tucker's point of view is, I'm not doing a show in the traditional sense. I'm not competing on CNN or MSNBC. I'm not doing a radio show. I'm not even doing a podcast. I'm on Twitter. That's a distinctly different venue. There's nothing in my contract that says I can't do a show on Twitter. And by the way, I'm not even being compensated. I'm just doing it for free. It's effectively me just standing in the middle of the town square with a bullhorn that's being watched by 180 million people. And that's what really frosts Fox. They're being embarrassed because every time Tucker posts one of these videos, hundreds of millions of people watch it. And at Tucker's high water mark when he was on Fox, and he was the highest viewership Fox had, he got 3 million on a good night. 3 million. What this is doing is exposing Fox's underbelly. It exposes their entire business model as ineffective and old and tired. Tucker's embarrassing them. Do you understand? It's not just about the legal thing. It's not about Dominion anymore. This is so much bigger. This is about Tucker exposing the old guard called Fox News. And after 2+ decades of dominance in cable news where they could thump their chest and say, we're number one. Problem is, fewer and fewer people of a certain age are watching it. The demographic watching Fox News is aging, and younger people are not. They're getting their information elsewhere, and Tucker is underlining that every time he posts a video. That's humiliating to them, don't you understand? Like, that's telling a devastating story they don't want exposed. People don't need us anymore, is what Tucker Carlson is exposing. And so they have fired off this is the headline from Axios, Fox demands Tucker Carlson cease and desist, sending him a letter as he ramps up a competing series on Twitter that drew a combined 170 million views on its first 2 episodes. This is as of yesterday's reporting. The contract battle between Fox and its former top host, who was taken off the air in April, has mighty repercussions for the conservative media ecosystem. With Tucker on Twitter, Carlson and his growing production team are working to elevate Elon Musk's social media site as a news platform. The cease and desist letter has "not for publication" in bold at the top. Not for publication. Top secret. So the media is more willing to honor Fox's demands of top secret quiet on Tucker's cease and desist letter than they are a tape that could take down a former sitting president of the United States. It's amazing. Media people. Always media people first. Fox is continuing to pay Carlson, maintains that his contract keeps his content exclusive to Fox through the end of next year. Fox is arguing that they own Tucker lock, stock, and barrel, and he cannot produce content of any kind until the end of next year. Now, remember, we discussed this last week. Can Tucker speak freely on a platform without being compensated? That's the question. So, if, how do I put this? I've signed a contract to work exclusively for one employer. That employer doesn't want me on the air anymore. They continue to pay me even though I'm not on the air anymore. And I say, okay, well, I've been asked to go speak on stage, uncompensated, at an event with thousands of people in an arena every Sunday. Can I be stopped? Can I be legally stopped from going and speaking freely on a venue stage in an arena every week on a Sunday? Can they stop me? I say no. I say that there's no evidence that Tucker's taking a nickel for doing this work at Twitter. And in fact, I'll bet you money. You know what I'll bet? I'll bet he's probably got some sort of back-end deal that says, hey, I'm being paid through December of next year, so I can't take anything for this, but basically whatever I rack up, we're just going to keep notes on this thing. We're going to have a gentleman's handshake. You'll pay me on the backside. But in the meantime, I'll just do this for free. He's that smart. He doesn't need the money. I'll bet you they've got something like that worked out. And how can Fox stop it? That's effectively telling a guy he cannot speak freely. He can't speak for free. I don't think there's a judge in this country, I hope, that would side with a network telling somebody that just because they're not on the air, they can't speak freely. I mean, look, he could take paid speaking engagements while he was working for Fox. How's this any different? The thing is, there's nothing that stipulates in his contract that Twitter is a competing media entity. Now what Fox is admitting is, holy crap, yes, they are, and they're embarrassing us. That's what this is. Because if Tucker was giving Heritage speeches every week, and Heritage, think of it this way. If the Heritage Foundation were rolling video of Tucker giving a weekly speech at the Heritage Foundation and posting it at the Heritage Foundation, this wouldn't be a thing. This is a thing because it's Twitter. This is a thing because 180 million views. This is a thing because Fox is being exposed as an old-timey business model. It's a relic. It's the buggy and the buggy whip. And I find it delightful. So I will predict that if this ends up getting to court, I think Tucker will ignore this cease and desist letter. I think they will head to court over this. And if Fox continues to push this, I think they will be embarrassed and they will lose. They cannot stop a man from speaking until the end of next year. You cannot do that. You can stop him from gainful employment, but you can't stop him from speaking. That would be my guess. I mean, I'm willing to be proven wrong. One more, Pat Sajack is done. Pat Sajack has officially said he's done. And did you know that he's hated by the left? I don't think I understood how much the left hates Pat Sajak. Did you know this, Fast Eddie?
No, I honestly did not. Yesterday.
Pat Sajak announces after 41 years hosting that game show. He's been doing this so long, my grandparents, I remember as a child, I mean, I'm 46, folks. For only 5 years of my life, Pat Sajak was not hosting this game show. Think of that. I remember my grandparents. I would stay with my grandparents on weekends. Friday night, Wheel was on. Oh, boy. I mean, TV trays and Wheel o' Fortune. That was appointment viewing for my grandparents. I can't even believe that. 41 years, Fast Eddie.
It's funny to think that even like game shows go back that long. Like I know 70s was like the hub for game shows, but it's funny to think that they've gone on that long and it's still now relevant today.
He tweeted yesterday, "The time has come. I've decided that our 41st season, which begins in September, will be my last. It's been a wonderful ride. I'll have more to say in the coming months. Many thanks to you all." Sajack, he's 76, by the way. He looks fantastic for 76. Has presided over the game show since 1981. He took over from Chuck Woolery, who was the first show host. This show debuted in 1975. I had no idea it was that old. Love Chuck Woolery. Anyway, I was just minding my own business, about to head to bed, and I see some hateful screed pop up in my Twitter feed last night from a avowed Pat Sajak hater. It's apparently a real thing. And this is someone that actually tweeted this. Real thing. Quote, "Pat Sajak, conservative extremist and climate change denier, announced he's going to retire after 41 seasons as host of Wheel of Fortune, which I'm pretty sure is the longest any game show host has gone without having a clue." Did you know that Pat Sajak is a conservative extremist and climate change denier?
No, that's a new one.
That was posted by someone called Charlotte Clymer, who is clearly formerly a man, now identifies as a lesbian. Okay. So just passing that on, if you didn't know, a benign game show host of 41 years is loathed by the American left for some reason. We don't know. It's a real pleasure to welcome in Byron Donalds, Congressman, Florida's 19th congressional district. Congressman, it's a real pleasure to have you on, sir. Thanks for your time. Hi.
No, thanks for having me on.
You bet. I've got a lot to talk with you about. I guess I would start for the reason you're here, and I'm grateful for it because we talked about this last week with the Deputy Director of the GOP, and it's an initiative that I know you're interested in. You guys in Florida run your elections very, very well. You've been famous for it lately. The GOP nationally has created something called bankyourvote.com, and I guess it's a two-pronged question. Number one, yes, I want to find out about it for people who don't know about the program yet. But two, if you could kind of enlighten us about the way you guys run elections in Florida, why it works so well, and what we can learn from it.
Well, I mean, look, when it comes to Florida, I've always said we have the best election laws in the country. We learned our lessons 22 years ago now, and every year we've gotten better. And it's real simple. First, we've had a very robust mail-in balloting process for a long time that's been refined. Voters have to request their absentee ballot. We don't do mass mail-outs. Voters they can only get one. They have to sign the envelope. If you get an absentee ballot, but you decide to vote at the polls, you have to bring the ballot to the polls and turn it over to the poll watcher. So we believe in ballot security and ballot integrity. Number two, we've had obviously name ID, a voter ID in our state for a very long time. Ever since I went to college in Florida, that's 25 years ago, we've had voter ID. Three, we have a process where when it comes to counting ballots, our supervisors are allowed to actually tabulate mail-in ballots ahead of time. So that way, when they're waiting for Election Day ballots to come in, they do the final tabulations, and everybody knows who won elections in Florida by basically 10 o'clock at night. It makes sense. Every state should follow it. I wish they would, but, the other 49, they got to make their own decisions.
Do you guys count ahead of time or wait till Election Day closes to count in Florida?
So our absentee ballots, they're allowed to be counted 15 days prior to Election Day. So with all the mail-in ballots that come in, the supervisor of elections does have the ability to go through those ballots, process those ballots, and sequester those ballots and sequester the results until Election night.
So bankyourvote.com, the GOP, Republican voters, we all know this. I mean, I for as long as I've done this, I've talked about turnout, election day. Guys like Scott Pressler have famously said, we've always voted for 12 hours while they're starting to vote for weeks, if not months. So we've got to get better at changing that dynamic, right?
Yes. No, 100% agree. I mean, look, Democrats now, they're trying to find any way they can to find the ballot. They have these outside groups that ballot harvest and basically try to drive as many people to the polls. And they've been doing that as well. And Republicans have to get in the game. You know, I always look at it as, you know, if you're going to go play football and they have the new equipment and we're using the leather hat, that's a problem. Like, you know, you could win, but you're not even playing the same game. And so what we got to do is understand those dynamics. And depending on state law, what the state allows in those states, we have to become efficient and excellent in those practices. I love voting on Election Day. I think it's great. But if Pennsylvania is going to send mail-in ballots out 6 weeks or 8 weeks before Election Day, we need to bank those votes too.
Yeah, and that's Dick Morris said something to me once upon a time that stuck with me. He said, Republicans have their couch potatoes too. It's funny, you don't think about it, but there are lots of people out there that just don't vote for whatever reason. So, you know, Republicans have got to get better at spending time going out and finding those people. I know Democrats typically have an easier time with it because you can find them concentrated on college campuses or maybe urban city districts. But, you know, hopefully you're able to find those Republicans that would be inclined to vote, but just don't inclined to vote Republican, but just don't show up on Election Day. Is that possible?
Like, I definitely think that's possible. Listen, you know, lives are busy. People have stuff going on. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've heard of somebody, even when I was personally running, I'd ask them to go vote. I'd ask them again to go vote. After Election Day, I would thank them for the vote, and they would be like, oh, man, I'm sorry. I missed it. I forgot. And I'd be like, how? It happens. People are busy. And so, you know, it's our responsibility as a party is to do everything we can, turn over every stone possible to make sure we get people out to vote. And the best way to do it is starting as early as the law allows us. And you go find everybody. You go find their mama, you find their daddy, you find their auntie, you find their cousin, and you make sure they turn in those ballots, because at the end of the day, it's about the country. And we feel that if Republicans, we get out to vote and we work hard, we think, we feel very confident in our ability to go win, especially when you look at this disaster that is Joe Biden and his administration.
Listen, wherever you are, wherever you live, go to this new website that the GOP has set up called bankyourvote.com. Bankyourvote.com, and you can enter your own information wherever you live, an address, and you'll be given information about how your ballot can be sent to you, and when you can cast it, and where you can get requested, and times and dates, and all kinds of valuable information, no matter where you live, whatever state. Bankyourvote.com. Congressman, if I could pick your brain quickly, because you're in Florida.
Sure.
It's sort of the political epicenter of the universe, all of a sudden, Florida. There happen to be two guys that would like the Republican nomination again. I don't know where you've come down on that, or if you've already said so one way or the other. But as we speak this week, the former president will be, I guess, formally indicted, or however that works. It checks into Miami, where he'll eventually face a trial. Meanwhile, the governor of Florida is trying to cut into the former president's lead in the race. I don't envy DeSantis or anybody else at this point trying to get traction in this environment where it seems that all anybody wants to talk about is Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, look, to disclose it to you, I've formally endorsed President Trump. I'm with him, and that's no disrespect to our governor. I think our governor is great, but, elections are choices, and I've made mine. And the reason why is very simple. One, I think from a foreign policy standpoint, we got to have somebody who can step in day one and kind of get the world back in order. For all the talk from the Democrats about it was going to start World War III if Donald Trump became president, the opposite happened. The world was safer. Global order was in a better place. With this guy currently in the White House, we have, we have proxy wars in Ukraine and all kind of other craziness going on. And so that's the reason for me. But when it comes to this indictment, this thing is a complete travesty of justice. And just to surmise, the president of the United States, any president of the United States, we know they take classified documents. We know they take other documents and other effects with them. Every president does this. It's not new stuff. What they're trying to do is say that, because he talked about a document with somebody else, allegedly, I might add, because the audio hasn't been released, this transcript is a leaked transcript, which, by the way, is illegal, and it's leaked to the press. So I'm going to put that aside for a moment. They're basically saying that because he did that, because he moved boxes, he obstructed justice. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Obstructing justice means there has to be an underlying crime, and there is no underlying crime because presidents are allowed to have documents. They all have documents. What this is a political hit job, and I think that people are sick of it, not just Republicans, but I think people are sick of it. Because if you look at our cities where you have district attorneys who are not enforcing the law, but then they're going to go invent charges against a former president simply because you just don't like the man. And let's be very clear, a lot of this is we don't like him. That actually is un-American. It is destructive of our judicial system. And I think that's the stuff that we got to stand against as Americans.
Congressman Byron Donalds with us, Florida's 19th Congressional District. The House Oversight Committee seems to have some pretty bombshell stuff on what I think is an actual story, and that's the compromised Biden family and maybe tens of millions of Donalds, says Comer. Tens of millions of dollars, I should say, the Biden has collected in the family, laundered through the family from foreign entities. What do you know about that, and where does it go from here? This is another one of these things that kind of got swallowed up in the news of Trump last week, probably on purpose.
I think there are no coincidences here. I've read the document from the FBI, so I will tell you firsthand. The document clearly states that the confidential informant alleges that Joe Biden was paid $5 million and Hunter Biden was paid $5 million through a series of accounts, which is actually consistent with how Hunter Biden moves all his other money so that it can be concealed from the American taxpayer and can be concealed from the IRS. So, Joe Biden likes to say he wants everybody to pay his fair share. Well, I guarantee you this. He ain't paying no taxes on that $5 million. I guarantee you that. So that money was moved through, and this is what the confidential human source has said, that a Burisma exec or somebody high up in Burisma paid the Bidens so that Joe Biden could use his office to pressure Ukraine to fire the prosecutor looking into Burisma. That is pay for play. That is corruption. It's public corruption. And the fact that the FBI looked at this report, said it was disinformation, even though the source that brought it to them is still on the FBI's payroll, has been paid hundreds of thousands of dollars by the FBI. It's still an active source of the FBI, but it got stuck in a box somewhere because somebody at the political level of the FBI basically said there's nothing to see here. This is the problem in our country because you do have two standards of justice. If you're a Democrat politician, and as long as you literally don't have the smoking gun in your hand, they will cover for you and they will let it all go away. If you're a Republican politician, they're going to invent crimes to try to stop you.
Congressman Byron Donalds, again, the 19th District of Florida. I appreciate all your time today. The website is called bankyourvote.com, that the GOP writ large would like to call your attention to wherever you live, bankyourvote.com. Could I just ask you briefly in closing? I'll let you run. What do you think will come of this House Oversight Committee? Where are we taking it? Where will it go, or what can happen here, if anything?
Listen, I think we're just getting started. I think what we're going to do is reveal more information. And then what we want to see happen are changes to the law that prevent family members of the executive to be involved in these pay-for-play schemes.
Is this impeachment worthy, Congressman? I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you think it's impeachment worthy? Could it be? Could we see a vote on impeachment, do you think?
Depending on what we find, I definitely believe so. And I think the difference here is that what Nancy Pelosi did is she just said, I want to impeach Trump no matter what, so I'll find a phone call or do whatever I can. What we're doing is we're going through the process of actually documenting the evidence. So if that's where the evidence leads, yes, I think it should. But we got to understand, if the family of the sitting president has taken millions of dollars from foreign countries and foreign sources, how can the president do his job without being co-opted by the interests of the family?
Congressman, thanks for your time again this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.